Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Welcome back to another Miniatures Monday. Today I'm going to be taking a closer look at the Icons of the Realms Dragons of Stormwrack Isle mini set. So this comes with 5 miniatures. They're supposed to be based off of the characters that you can play in the starter set, and we'll take a look at that in a moment. This is actually the second set of these that I've picked up, but like you can see that this one is all kind of like on a weird angle. It's not put together the best. In fact, the plastic is actually sticking off of the card some there. So I do have one set of these minis that is in much better looking condition in terms of how it's punched out of the, when it was put together at the factory. And they are up on my wall as a collectible. But I thought it would still be cool to take a look at these nonetheless because of who these characters actually are. So you can take a look at the packaging there, and we've got a paladin, a cleric, a wizard, a rogue, and a fighter. So interesting stuff there. And of course, these characters are all over the Dragons of Stormwrack Isle starter set that came out in 2020, I think it was. When did this come out? 2022. So in 2022, this set was released, and if you take a look at like the artwork, you can see the archer or the fighter character. There you can see the paladin and the cleric. Some information about some of the different characters. I'm sure we'll see the wizard, hopefully in the green robes here in a moment. So yeah, so there's the wizard character, and I'm sure when we get to the spells, right, so we see all these different characters in here. The interesting thing about them is that they are all human. Now, when you take a look at the actual character sheets for these characters, what you'll find is that the paladin is a human, so that makes sense. However, the fighter is a wood elf, the rogue is a halfling, the cleric is a hill dwarf, and the wizard is a high elf. So it doesn't quite match up with what's going on in terms of the box art there. And now, I guess to be fair, you could kind of say that like the archer character does look maybe a little elven there. But what's really happening is that these are characters from the 80s Dungeons & Dragons cartoon series. Although it's not complete, and that's one of the things that kind of bugs me about this set. I do wish that they would have had 2 more miniatures in there, and I hope that they do a set in the future that just has the cartoon characters. Because what you have here is you do have Hank, instead of being the fighter, Hank was the ranger. Then you had Diana, who was, instead of being just the rogue, she was a thief acrobat in the cartoon series, although more modern interpretations of her have her being a monk instead of a rogue. You had Presto, who was the wizard, and then you had Eric the Cavalier, who was the paladin here, and the cleric is a more recent character. I think that's been invented for, they had like a Saturday morning cartoon comic that came out a while ago that had like the cleric character in there, and she might be part of some of like the there are some D&D Beyond adventures that actually do have these characters from the cartoon show, but they are missing Sheila, who was the actual thief, and they're missing Bobby, who was the barbarian, and they are missing Uni the unicorn for those people that just weren't absolutely annoyed to the nth degree over this thing. But anyway, that's sort of where these characters actually come from. So it'd be kind of cool to take a look at the actual minis here that they have. And, again, really interesting, but, I mean, that is definitely not a dwarf. That is definitely not a halfling. So, it doesn't quite line up with what's actually presented. I think they should have just gone all in with it. And, honestly, just made all the characters human for that one starter set. You also got to see the characters from the D&D animated series in the live-action D&D movie that came out with like Chris Pine when they were in Waterdeep. Waterdeep or Neverwinter. I forget which city they were in now. It's been a little while since I watched the movie. But when they were taking part in those like games in the arena, one of the groups was actually these characters here. So let's start with Eric the Cavalier, or in this case, just the Paladin. And so these are made to resemble sort of the grown-up versions of the characters. So, for example, like I said, on D&D Beyond, there were some free adventures you could download that have the characters from the D&D cartoon show as your player characters, but they are like aged up and they're older and more, I guess, just kind of more like grizzled or more used to the world that they're in. So Eric has his shield there. In the cartoon show, he didn't have a sword. He only had the shield, which could be used to create like a protective barrier around you. Now, again, the characters from the Stormwrack Isle don't have those abilities or don't have those magic weapons. However, each of the D&D cartoon show magic items that the characters had are in the 2024 DMG. So that's kind of cool to see. And we'll take a look at our cleric character next. And so it looks like she is summoning some divine energy there. Paint jobs are pretty basic for something that cost me $40 Canadian. I don't know what the US price would have been. Probably would have been around... what did I pay? Actually, I paid $40. So this probably would have been like around $25 to $30 US. So the paint jobs are pretty basic. I mean, I guess I shouldn't complain too much. And then we've got Diana here. So she was the thief acrobat. And she has a pole that can extend or collapse. So she would use it like pole vault or, things like that with it. And get it to... We can get it to focus there. So that's the miniature inspired by her. Now, one of my personal favorite characters was Hank the Ranger. Although this one, I got to admit, this one looks a little sloppy. You can see where it's bled over into some different areas there. But Hank the Ranger, so his bow didn't actually require arrows. So the fact that he's holding an arrow there isn't actually accurate to the cartoon show. His bow would just generate magical arrows. So you kind of see there. And they could do things like, they could use like force to like knock you down, or they could also turn into, because it was a cartoon show, they could also be used like the arrow would turn into almost like a rope that would wrap itself around somebody to bind them. So that's kind of what we have there. And then we've got Presto, and this might be where most of the detail work might have gone. But we got Presto, our wizard. Now, in the cartoon show, again, he would actually cast spells not from a spell book, but out of his magical hat. Although the hat would almost always corrupt what he was trying to do. Almost like bile magic thing. But what is actually kind of neat is if I can get it to focus there, is there's actually like lines on the pages of the book that he's holding. So a little bit of like cool detail work there. So anyway, that is pretty much it. Like, honestly, the paint jobs are sort of a mixed bag. Like, the one on Eric is pretty decent. Right, it's got the emblem on his shield there. The Presto one is great. The Diana paint job looks pretty good. The Cleric and the Hank the Ranger paint jobs look a little more basic. And the Hank one, you can actually see quite a few like mistakes or errors, or like there shouldn't be dark brown paint next to his arm, between his arm and his armor there. But it's still cool to have these minis nonetheless. Like I said, I love the D&D cartoon show. So that's the reason I bought the set of minis, just to have on my wall to begin with. But I think it would be kind of cool to actually use them in some of the adventures that I have. And I do have 2 or 3 modules on D&D Beyond that uses the cartoon show characters. So what I would love to see is an updated version of these minis come out that also includes Bobby the Barbarian and Sheila the Thief, and then like Diana being like more of a monk like she's meant to be. But it's still really cool. Like, it's cool to see these minis. It's just cool to have that little bit of nostalgia. It was definitely, for me, I was excited to see the characters on the box of the 2022 starter set for D&D. It's a bit of a shame that they didn't commit to it and just let you play those like D&D cartoon characters, as opposed to, again, kind of the same generic characters that they had with the 2014 starter set, like the Dwarf Cleric, Halfling Rogue, Elven Wizard, and then you had like the two human characters sort of thing. So you kind of had that like going forward, I guess. But it's still cool to see them, still cool to have them. And I'm hoping that they might actually fit in this box. But I don't think they're going to, are they? The bases rise up just a little bit too much. So I was planning on storing them in here. Let's see what we can do here. Let's just see what we can do here. See if it'll close. Yeah, that actually goes on fairly well. So I think I'll just store them in there for now, and just to be able to have them with the starter set that they're supposed to be a part of. So when I do eventually get to my starter set Saturday series, I can at least reference the minis, although they were absolutely a separate purchase for probably the same price as the starter set itself for the you living in the US. But still really cool nonetheless to have these minis. So that is the Dragons of Stormwrack Isle minis, or for, you know, people that are as old as I am, the D&D cartoon show characters featuring a cleric. And yeah, I think they're pretty cool. So I don't regret buying it. It's nice to have some out of the package that I can use. Truthfully, I don't have a ton of wizard miniatures, so just having like the Presto mini there is going to be really, really great to have. The female characters, I don't have a ton of those either, like for the cleric and stuff like that. So they'll be pretty handy to have. So let me know in the comments below, have you picked up the Dragons of Stormwrack Isles miniatures? And have you just said the heck with it and used them in your game anyway, regardless of whether the characters on the sheet match the way that the minis look? Let me know all that in the comments below. Anyway, thank you all so very much for your time. I truly appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care.